and we'll kind of get started. People are going to be following us
Yeah.
and kind of coming in through the
Yeah.
waiting room here in the next few minutes. But I want to welcome back one of my favorite peeps especially one of my favorite people on the East Coast, Jerry Durham, physical therapist, consultant, just amazing mindset, and someone who kind of blends the science and the soft skills, kind of the art of PT together. I also want to welcome all the managers, practice owners, front office stars, and physical therapists to the webinar, and also our YouTube channel. This will be shown on our YouTube channel later, so we want to give a shout out to those people. My name is Ben. I'm the founder and CEO of Lake Washington Physical Therapy here in the Seattle area. We currently have 5 clinics with 2 additional kind of satellite programs for delivering training, both in baseball and soccer facilities, as well as delivering visits to people's homes, which we kind of started during the pandemic. Some quick housekeeping items. Make sure to use the comment section if you have stuff to say, or raise your hand for questions, any of those things. We'll kind of catch that stuff and try to get to as much as we can. If not, Jerry or I will answer offline. If you'd also be so kind to give us a follow, a like, or even a subscribe on YouTube, that helps us create kind of relevant content and get stuff out to people where this kind of connects with them. And then finally,
Ben, you have clinics open on Sunday, don't you?
We do.
Yeah, that's what I thought, dude. Last time I saw it, I think that in some of your more tighter community, and tighter meaning ones that aren't like in a business district, right?
Correct. Yeah, the ones that are like more in the residential.
I was really impressed when I saw that. I was like, that's a great idea. I mean, there's so many, right? The people they probably walk over. I would even those clinics. I remember seeing that, right?
Yeah, a lot of folks are in walking distance. So yeah, I can fill people on. If people have questions about kind of weekends and how we compensate our therapists for that, let me know. I'm happy to share stuff. I'm about as transparent as you get. And then finally, we'll have our contact information in the details below and on the email information you received. For both Jerry and myself, if you have a question. But Jerry's a great follow on LinkedIn, as well as subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. He's got a lot of relevant content on there. But as you might likely know, this is part 2 in our series with Jerry, and I would reference all of you that kind of missed the first part just to go back and check on part 1, and that's where we talked about arriving. So creating quality and trying to create the customer value to arrive for the first visit. This one's going to focus a little bit more on pay. So why should they pay? What's the value add to them? What's the value for the therapist? The front desk, how are all those people kind of rewarded, and what kind of sort of things that kind of come into play? If you want to explore some more of those videos, they're good. But basically, the whole customer client life cycle is kind of what Jerry specializes into. And kind of he believes kind of in, I'm going to speak for you. He believes in the strength of the relationship. So with the customer. So if the business is doing well, that means the customer is doing well, and vice versa. But the customer is a really important part of that process, as is the front desk and the therapist. He's been practicing for over 25 plus at this year. I don't want to age you. We'll say 15,
30, 30.
He opened San Francisco Sport and Spine many moons ago and ran 3 clinics, which a lot of people on this call are in that boat, much like myself. So it's a lot to manage. It's a lot of lots of hats worn, a lot of balls in the air. And he had a very successful practice there that he had with my friend Sturdy McGee. And he kind of led the conversion and patient experience kind of with patient care there. So now he's a partner at the Client Experience Company, which you should take a look at online. There's a lot of tools, blogs, videos. There's a lot of great stuff there for all practice owners, really of all ilks, I think, like any kind of practice demo. It doesn't have to be outpatients. It could be podiatry, chiropractic, surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, anything. But you basically help healthcare practices and business kind of create and generate leveraging understanding the patient. So this is the Arrive, Pay, and Stay. This is the pay portion, part 2. And, shortly Jerry and I will talk about the healthcare practices and how it kind of runs. So we have some questions that people sent in ahead of time. If I left anything out, why don't you fill anything that I might have missed there, Jerry? I know we've had quite a few calls over the years, but if there's something I missed.
I hate the Seahawks. You left that out. You said Seattle, and I even was triggered by the term Seattle. Just so you guys know, I'm not a Seattle Seahawks fan. We'll leave it at that.
And you still have some posts.
I think that's the only important part to remember. I think that's the only thing you left out, man.
But I think Tommy John's surgery will kind of hold a special
dude.
And the PTSD it kind of recesses your brain here.
Yeah, I am. And just for anybody who cares or knows, I am in Philadelphia. So my Niners came through Philly and I had to watch the debacle in Philadelphia. So we'll leave it at that.
And I will say, we talked about this offline, but I would say that the Niners would have won the game if they had a quarterback. So
thank you. I appreciate that. That
as a former quarterback, I'm obviously biased.
I do appreciate that.
So we have some, Jerry's a huge Beastie Boys fan. And so we want to make these questions. We flavored them. Yes, I know. I got some great wall art back there too.
And I got 2 in front of me, by the way.
So we made some of these questions that people sent in, Beastie Boys centric. So I guess, how do most clinic directors, when it comes to the pay component, sabotage themselves?
That's awesome, dude. Now, see, I'm going to have to pause because now there's songs going in my head. And I love the fact you did that. We are in an interesting world, my friends. We are in a world with what we call third-party payers. And I have challenged people all the time to find other industries on the face of the earth where the dollar is separated from the client who we're going to serve. And there's this whole thing. I don't remember when, I don't remember where, but I do remember learning this term agency. And this agency effect where there's a separation with someone with the dollar of the services they are going to be receiving or products they're going to be buying. And so there's definitely an issue there. Back to your original question, where this fits in is, I think we facilitate that at times, and where we sabotage ourselves is, you all know, or maybe you don't know, I do a lot of secret callers and I listen to a lot of recorded phone calls, which I love to do. You learn so much with the front desk, and mostly people calling in for a first visit. I've recently started listening to return calls, people trying to reschedule, people calling with billing issues. There's a lot to be learned from those. Yet where the owner sabotages themselves is someone calls in and says, "Hi, my name is Jerry. I have low back pain. I want to get scheduled for physical therapy." And within the first 2 to 3 questions is, "What insurance do you have?" And I always find it so curious. I said, "My name is Jerry. I said I have low back pain. I said I want to get scheduled." And 100% of the secret callers I've ever done, nobody has addressed just those 3 things before asking about insurance ever. So 100% of the time, people bring up the insurance before they tell me they'll get me scheduled, before they ask me about my low back pain, most of them before they ever say my name. So I think a big sabotage, we tell the person on the other side of the phone, this is about your insurance, not so much you. And so back to the agency thing, we understand that they are separated from this money, but then we from payment, but then we make it about the insurance. I mean, there's probably 5 or 6 answers around this, but that's the one that really hits me first from doing the secret callers. And it feels, I got to tell you, you go do a couple secret callers, you'll go, yeah, that was cool. But then as you start making them over and over, right? Because I use an actual real problem I have. So you start to get somewhat connected with the call, and it's a weird little vibe. And you hang up, and what I do is I have a notepad next to me, and I'm taking down all the questions that are asked to me. And then as soon as I hang up, I start to debrief on the call, and I just look back. I start reading back through it. And one of the questions I ask, by the way, is, why should I arrive? And when I go back through and go, well, they got my name, they got my insurance, they got my doctor's name, they got my date of birth, and they got all this, but I'm like, I don't have a reason to arrive beyond the point of, I just got scheduled for physical therapy. Again, and then we could go down this value conversation, but let me back it back out. The way the owner's sabotaging it is he or she is making it all about the insurance. In my process, the insurance is the last question asked, and it's actually asked, how do you want to pay for it? If you don't bring it up first.
That's a great way to kind of approach that too. And I think the thing is kind of lost on a lot of people. I mean, obviously people that are watching this are probably doing deep dives into most of the PT stuff on the internet. And people are really into cash pay right now. Well, I think you have to kind of almost address every patient as cash pay up to a point.
You are correct. And thanks for saying that, Ben. Yeah, you're 100% correct. Everybody is cash pay. Yeah. In one way, shape, or form, and deductibles. And God, when I was answering the phones, I think, here's some good context probably for this call. Again, I answered all the incoming new patient calls in my clinic and scheduled 3 clinics for a full year. So I took over 1,000 new patient calls. And you're exactly right. I mean, I was back then, the plans, and I just watched the plans get worse and worse and worse, right?
The deductible keeps getting reset. And I think that's, especially coaching the staff on this year round is important, but I think especially January, February, March, deductibles aren't met. Copays keep creeping up on the scale there. But I think if you addressed everyone like a cash pay, I think we have a better product. And then the value add is you have to talk about it then too.
Yeah, you got to talk about it. Correct. So here, let's solve a problem real quick instead of telling you how they sabotage themselves. So don't make it about the insurance. Now, I didn't say don't talk about insurance. I didn't say don't talk about how they're going to pay. I said don't make it about that. So number one, by the way, if you want to learn how to get people to pay, let's do this real quick. If you want to learn how to get people to say yes, I shouldn't say to pay. Let me back that up. If you want to get people to say yes and you want to know they're going to arrive, make sure they understand what they're going to get, right? What value will they receive? Don't forget, money is in the value equation, my friends. So if Ben called me, Ben can't make a value decision if we haven't talked money, price, cost. But I have to give him a product, just bear with me on this, which is I'm going to have a conversation with him about how we have the experts who have helped people just like him. We have experts who have helped people get back to the things he wants to get back to. I'm going to make sure they know what they're going to receive on that first visit from the expert they're scheduled with, things they can value. Then I'm going to say, so Ben, how would you like to pay? And Ben, you're going to hear, you're going to hear dead air when you ask that question, because the next thing typically is, well, you take my insurance, don't you? Now, if you're contracted, you get to go, sure. Yeah. And let me tell you what we're going to do. And if you don't, great opportunity to have a conversation, but you already sold the value. So you did the work. You did the hard work already, by the way. The cost conversation is not the hard work. The selling the value. Nobody has ever sold me value on my calls. I'm going to tell you right now, the secret callers. I've never been told the value I will receive from arriving.
Well, and I think some of this is a marketing issue as well, from a standpoint of what we focus on. At least we try to do is really elevate our individual clinicians as specialists. So if you're a skier, you're a runner, you're a hiker, this is the person you want to see, not just a generic therapist as a cog, because then none of us are actually that person. But most clinics, especially, not to pick on anybody, but like corporate PT is they're filling spots, they're filling slots on the schedule. We're trying to create pairings. And so I think to your point, like,
love that was awesome. I hope everybody heard that.
Well, I think you're willing
not scheduling, not filling slots, pairing the right people together on the schedule. That's completely different mindset.
But it's amazing because you go on some websites, because you've done this a lot more than I have, but I'm looking for a therapist in another city for a patient that travels or is moving or is going to be working remote for a while. And there's not even information about the therapist, or the therapist information is,
it's their CV. It's the CV, dude.
Or it's 3 sentences. It's like, John likes his dog. John hikes. Okay. Well,
there's an in between there. Cause by the way, mine were 3 sentences, but it was based on patient feedback. The 3 sentences they had to put in there was what I got feedback on from our clients. So there is a happy medium in there for sure. People, check this out. So the title of this is pay. People will pay for an expert. People will travel for an expert. People will wait for an expert. So if you have that mindset based on what Ben just said, and Ben calls me and says, hi, my name's my name's Bill. I'm having some knee pain with running. I was on your website and see that you guys help runners. By the way, if I answer that call, I'm grinning ear to ear because I'm like, here we go. I'm still taking him through the same process, but he already told me what he values. He already told me he was on the website, and I'm going to clarify that he saw our expert, Dr. Jane Doe, who works with the runners. We're going to get all that value. I'm going to build in all that value into where he is at this point in time on his journey, right? And then I am increasing the likelihood. Check this out. I am increasing the likelihood that the person on the schedule with Dr. Jane Doe at 10:30, because we paired her up properly, will arrive.
They'll arrive, they'll pay their
And
bill,
pay. Sorry.
and
Sorry.
they'll,
People arrive.
will also refer their friends.
Well,
And
yeah,
they're also
yeah.
gonna
I don't want to jump ahead.
yeah,
I
yes,
don't want to get ahead, but
there's
right,
gonna be
they're
more.
going to
There's gonna,
arrive and pay now
yeah,
because, and maybe we get to how do you want to pay? Well, I have Blue Cross. You take that, don't you? And you guys may be out of network. You may be non-contracted. It may be whatever, but it don't matter at this point. There's all this value. So then there's no pressure on you to have a cost conversation because you sold all the value. And so let me tell you how it works here. Shoot, you got him scheduled with the expert who's helped people just like him. He went to the website, saw that this is the person for him. You verified that. You managed expectations. You told this person, Bill, what he's going to get for his time with Dr. Jane Doe on that first visit. And then you gave him a cost. How can you lose? There is no lose in this conversation.
well, and there's one more win for the practice, and that is that Jane sees people that she likes and doesn't burn out.
Huge. That pairing, the thing you said about pairing, right? Yeah. I mean, so this person showing up, expecting to see an expert for an hour. Jane, right, wants to see runners, right?
Here's kind of a follow-up question, and if you'll bear with me. So, what kind of ill communication do the front offices have with patients when it comes to transparency of costs? So
Now you got to ask me. You got to ask me the question.
What do you like to reveal on that first phone call? What do you like to reveal at the first check-in, via email, et cetera, or on the website? Because we try, at least for us, we try to have everything as upfront as possible. Here's what it's going to cost. Here's our average, numbers of visits it takes. So people can kind of make the best decisions possible for their own household.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. So here's my take on that. My belief, my opinion, my bias is based on, right, my experience in this world and managing all this. If you go to a shoe website and, right, the brand, the style, what you want, you've had it before. Maybe you haven't had it before, but you saw someone else wearing it, right? And there's the price. I mean, it's fairly straightforward about the product you're going to receive for the price. I don't like uncertainty, and neither do you when you're buying things. So that's a two-way street. I don't want someone to come to my website and guess about the product. And I know, right? You got all, so it's not just the price and the visit, you showing the experts and everything. I want a conversation. Even with, I'll jump ahead, I love online forms people fill out to schedule, but with all my clients, nobody's confirmed. And there's a note you get, no one's confirmed for the appointment till they speak to the client care coordinator. I want the conversation because I want to increase. I don't like risk, right? Business is risk mitigation. I read this about a year ago. I just picked it up like a year ago, right? So when I'm on the phone with Ben and we're talking about him possibly scheduling, him possibly arriving, him possibly paying us to get help, right? And spend an hour with Dr. Jane Doe. My role is to increase the likelihood that he will arrive and pay, AKA decrease the risk that he won't schedule, decrease the risk he'll drop off, no show, decrease the risk he'll cancel. I want control of the risk. So I personally don't like prices on the website. That's just me. And again, people do it and they're successful with it. I get it. I want all the risk. I want it coming through me, meaning I want it coming through the front desk person that we've invested in and trained properly on how to have these proper conversations with these people.
Well, and that's a quick follow-up on that too. So how do you feel like one of the things we do, and again, I'm open to take messages offline too, but one of the things we do is we collect towards deductible every visit as best we can. And so we try to decrease that risk from a AR accounting side. But what's your thoughts on that? Because I know a lot of clinics, like they prefer to not do that because they don't want to talk about money, and then they want to just, people get a big bill at the end and they're frustrated.
Yeah. Ooh, boy. Yeah. You want to talk about increased risk of the worst online review someone can leave you. Let them get a big bill from you 2 months after they've gone through their course of care. So if I'm going to decrease risk, then I have to manage and set expectations, right? And I have to have objectives for every step of this journey this person's on. So on the first phone call, in my world, we have to address payment and cost. It must be addressed. Now, address means I might give them a price. Address could mean I tell them they're going to get a call back with the cost or their benefits, depending on what you can get. It may also involve telling them that we will have these benefits when you arrive and you will know your costs when you arrive. I work with a group right now. It's funny because we can finagle this conversation whenever you want to give people the price, but give them the opportunity to opt in. So like an 80-20 rule. If I want to give most people the cost when they arrive, I'm going to say, right, and we'll give you the cost when you arrive. Will that work for you? Right. With that little, will that work for you? Now I've decreased, by the way, I've decreased the risk that you're not going to show up because you're like, wait, when am I getting the price? I don't know. And you just told me, no, I'd like it before. Cool. I'll call you before. I decreased the risk, increase the likelihood of first visit arrival. I believe in this world, yeah, like you do, the cash flow is the lifeblood of the business. So
it's not just about, you and I grabbing the money. It's more about providing,
and it's buy-in, it's value. It's this dollar is associated with the work being done here. You could now here. Yes. So I'm all for collecting on every visit and telling people, by the way, I break it down even further. So Ben, we will. And by the way, I have people who take credit cards on the first phone call, put them on file and say, Ben, we're going to make your life easier. Right. And we find all our clients love this when we do it for them. We're going to take your credit card today. And then you will. I love this. I made a clinic do this because we brainstormed how we wanted to do this. And it wasn't, we'll charge you during your, no. Too much uncertainty. Ben, we'll take your credit card. We will not charge your card until the end of the visit when you're checking out. I mean, what more do you need to know, right? And Ben's going to go, cool, just take my card out because I don't want to hassle with it, right? Ben already said yes to everything. He agreed to the price. And then I said, Ben, I'm going to make your life easier. And we're not going to charge your card till you check out. So you'll always know it's going to run. It will never be run without you knowing. And Ben's going to go do it. And by the way, you tell me from the business side, that doesn't make life way easier on everybody.
Way easier. And you have it there. It's almost a deposit on that end. Two things I want to kind of share. The things that we do, one that Jerry mentioned, like, so we'll get their insurance card. We'll call and verify their benefits on their behalf. We make sure to say it's on behalf. It's not a guarantee.
Yeah, correct. This is all scripted this way too. Yeah, they got to know. And I even go, I don't say on behalf. I say, by the way, your insurance company will not guarantee this information. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
I literally stop and go, do you understand what that means? And everybody says no. I go, it means it may not be the right cost.
There might be some discrepancies depending on how they're feeling that day, the insurance company that is. And then one thing we do too is we do an explanation of benefits that you have in the file. We also print off a copy for them of them signing their signed copy and put it in their new patient folder. So that way they know that they have read this information before. And I would say that cut down our calls of like, I was never told this information. Actually, you actually read it and signed it. Hopefully you read it, you signed it. You actually have a copy at home with it too, just so you kind of know, and they can call their own insurance and kind of at that point too, if they have, if they thought they had better coverage or whatever they might have there. I guess one of the things, this is kind of a newer comment. This is being talked about a little bit at CSM last week, is accepting multiple forms of payment. Is that critical? So what you want to do there?
That's one of my favorite songs, by the way, people. I hope we caught it. That's a brilliant song.
Dad jokes.
Multiple forms. Yeah, I'll take anything, man. I always used to say this from the get-go. I'll take anything. By the way, it's really cool because when I started, I don't know when HSAs, health savings accounts, and FSAs. I don't know what the F stands for, to be honest.
What
Flex savings account. I don't know when the actually came to be, but man, those I'm finding more and more people have those. So we're actually telling, with the right front desk team again on the first phone call, telling people, right, by the way, we do accept an HSA. Oh, you take it. Boy, the number of people go, oh, you take HSA, right? And so again, it decreases the uncertainty around finances. It decreases the uncertainty around, right? Where am I going to come up with this? Oh my gosh, I forgot I had that. And I put money in it every month. And now you've told them that you take those and you're reminded. So again, setting an expectation so that you can manage, right, the uncertainty around that. I'll take anything, man. And anybody who doesn't have it set up to have the credit cards on file to run, and someone would say they want to write checks, I'd be like, cool. Just know we accept that by the time you walk out. Hey, do you take cash? Sure. Just know we want to take that at the time you walk out. I'll take anything.
Yeah, no, I think that another pro tip on that, and the HSA accounts, which we have a lot here, we see a lot of Microsoft people here, they have that HSA. And that is that you don't be afraid to walk people through their benefits to the standpoint of, hey, you just had ACL surgery, or you're going to have ACL surgery. Let's load up that HSA. You're going to put money into it. You got your deductible to meet, and this is pre-tax. So you can defer some tax without getting wonky into the deep weeds. But, our clients are going to save anywhere between 30 and 45% on the money that they put in, pre-tax. So that's something to really think about. And then it does lower the burden to a degree of the healthcare cost too.
By the way, let's go back to your first question about how we sabotage ourselves on this, is believing that everybody understands their insurance and their FSA and their HSAs like you just described. So, setting up this idea of, if you're going to say, by the way, do you have an HSA card? Yes, I do. Well, that's great, because you're putting money in that pre-tax, and it actually, right, will cost you less than if you were paying out of pocket, blah, blah, blah. So again, if you guys understand that, if you guys understand that the people calling, and by the way, this was like my second biggest takeaway from that year I answered calls, was nobody knows shit about their insurance, and shit is too much credit.
Well, and you and I was doing this. Yeah, I started working as an aide when I was 15, and you've been doing this for 30 plus years. So I'm the same, like, longevity wise, and it changes every year. And, we're also not just, providers, but we're also consumers. We have our own,
right.
And it changes every year, and there's little tricks of the trade that happen every year. And
and there's a trust issue here too. So don't forget, people pay, right? People spend their money with people they know, like, and trust. So as you're sharing this information, and by the way, I don't know what objectives I had when I first started answering the calls, because I didn't know what I was doing and really what I wanted to achieve. Yet one of the objectives I realized I had achieved at the end of that year was I hung up the phone, and people were smarter about how their insurance worked than before when we got on the phone. And I felt good about that, because I felt, people know a little more about where to go or how the insurance works, or HSA or FSA. Actually made me feel better. So, right, they're not getting it from any other clinics. That's the other thing here, right? They're not getting this information. They're not getting this help. They're not having people giving them options on how to pay at other clinics. Anywhere in healthcare.
Anywhere. One of the things that too, we have our aid staff does most of our front office at most of our facilities, and they're all future DPTs. And I will tell you anecdotally, it's worth educating your staff on.
Oh yeah, there you
go. This is what gets them in during their interviews. They can talk about deductibles, co-pays, co-insurances, authorizations, limitations, CMS. They can talk about all these things. So it's a really worthwhile thing to educate them, because those are going to be your future. If you're playing the long game.
Yeah, those are going to be the people in the clinic, right? Yeah. Having to know this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's kind of piggybacks on that fairly nicely, but what's the sure shot, if you will, on results and payment per visit, and what should you kind of look at there when it comes to payer contracts? We talked a little bit about this offline. I can have my own 2 cents on this, but what are your thoughts on trying to maximize your payment per visit? That doesn't mean you're overcharging a patient. It means you're getting quality payment for that. What's the best, like, pearls there you have?
So, there's got to be, I know there's some revenue cycle management software out there these days that'll help you figure some of this out, but there's got to be someone in the business tracking across each individual payer what you can, be some of it's a hard, whatever. Good. We know that, because I'm going to take this question one step further after I answer this. So step one is you got to understand, right? Because you and I both know 97530, 97110, whatever. how are we going to play the game so that we can deliver right within the rules? So when I say play the game, I mean within the rules, right? You got to learn the game and learn the rules before you can make a decision if you want to break those rules or not, which I'm okay with too. But you can't be breaking the rules and saying we're not going to do that if you don't know the rules. So, right, figure out the payers, figure out, right, what they're going to pay across all that. And it's got to be, we had it in an Excel spreadsheet. And so it helped us. You know where it helped us a lot, Ben, was on the front end when having a phone call and giving people their costs. So I used to do a cost callback and promise people, right, their cost. And so because of this work my billing team had done, we were able to give people their costs, but it also helped us on the billing side to make sure that we were where we needed to be. And, that number to me is I'm just going to say it is a business decision. So how do I get that mix? Because the day you drop a contract, which I did and how my journey started, right, you got to know when you're going to drop any of your contracts. It's really interesting. Back to that agency effect I told you guys about and that third party payer. We also have an interesting business model in healthcare. There are two ways to make more money in your business. You grow capacity or you raise your prices. And in a straight up, just kind of classic PT model where you're all contracted, you've wiped one of those off the board. So again, you got to keep an eye on that stuff then, and you should anyway, but you got to know, when do we drop this contract? Because if we can't raise our prices and the contract drops below your cost of doing business, it's got to be cut that day.
Right. I think one of the things too, people kind of misinterpret is, the amount of work that goes in per contract. So for example, if insurance A is reimbursing a flat $90, but there's no work involved, and another one does 95, but it takes 15 hours a week of our staff's time, that's a bigger cost. So that's something you need to look at versus just
that's great. Yeah, that's good.
Payment. When we dropped United Healthcare approximately a year ago as a capitated visit price of around $70 a visit, which our costs in this area are about, say, $100 a visit plus. So we had frank discussions with them, and they're just like, we're just not the provider probably for your clientele there, and when
they're shareholders. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing that we looked at was that, we did kind of an analysis, and people are thinking about doing this. It's, probably about less than, at the time for us, it was about 3 to 5% of our patient volume. But if you look at your number of visits per patient, and it's dropping below, one a week because you don't have the capacity, then you're filling capacity with poor payers. And so I think every part of the country is different, but for us, I think you can only really, in our area, only survive with one of them. You can have United Healthcare, you can have Medicaid, or you can have Medicare. And so we continue to take Medicare. And I would say the thing about Medicare, not to give CMS a plug, but it takes the least amount of fighting. And so the payment is greater with some insurances, but it doesn't take a lot of fighting. Yeah, you have to, you follow the rules very closely, of course, but it doesn't take a lot of fighting. You don't have to call them and argue about codes or anything like that. It's a very straightforward payer. So that's kind of one of the things we looked at.
I just did a interview, and it's almost an hour long, with Anthony Meritato, and I don't want to. It hadn't been released yet. I don't know. Whenever this is released, just look at the date, because that podcast will probably be out within a few weeks of this. But Anthony talks about, he's got an interesting take because he's contracted with just about everybody. And he's got an interesting take on how he manages his contract clinic. And the takeaway from this high level, I'm not going to go into it deep because you guys got to hear him share it. And he speaks it very directly, very straightforward. And I won't do it justice, but the beauty is he understands every freaking insurer and what the codes mean to every insurer and what the guidelines are and what medical necessity is to every insurer. And he sets up and by the way, people have choices. He doesn't limit people. They have choices. And it's really a great conversation. When he first shared it with me a couple of years ago, I really didn't understand it. I didn't understand why you would do it. And as we head deeper into 2023 and what we're talking about and managing this, the more here we go to the lead question you had, the more you know about these individual insurers contracts you have, right? The more you know the terms about medical necessity and whatever, the better you will be able to take care of your patients. There, because again, we let the insurance dictate. And by the way, that's a cop out. And I'm just going to throw that out there right now, because if we don't truly know how to leverage this with our clients and let our clients, you guys heard me earlier. I take Ben through a call. I go through a 5-step process. And at the end of it, I say, so Ben, he has all the value. He has everything he needs to make a value equation to make a decision on if our ABC physiotherapy is going to be the right fit. And I say, so Ben, what do you want to do? And I wait. And he says yes or no, or he has more questions. So if we understand the payer mix, if we understand the requirements and the rules within the boundaries, again, this is the beauty of Anthony. He fucking knows all the rules. It's insane. And he has a course, by the way, of which I have no financial tie with, of helping people to understand this. And the better you know this, the better you can help your clients make better decisions for themselves, which in turn helps you stay in business so you can continue to serve people. So
and I think the smarter you get on that topic, the less patients your therapists have to see. So like for us,
by the way, and by the way, his cancel rate's like 0. You got to listen to it. And I'm not trying to pull you over to my podcast. I just can't explain it the way he did.
I like it.
Yeah, dude. It's interesting model. And it's legit. It's not some funky cash pay model. He's contracted with everybody. I'm telling you right now.
Yes. Well, we'll have to look at that. We'll get that in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll get that. Yeah, we'll drop that in there because I think everybody needs to hear this perspective when it comes to pay, right?
Totally. Because it makes a difference on the quality of the workplace for the therapist too. When it comes to kind of fighting for your rights here, when it comes to EMRs, what
dude, that term, that BC Boys song that came out in 85, 86. 86. Yeah, man, I think it's been just pertinent the last 3 to 5 years as it ever was. So
absolutely. What do you have technology wise that you're seeing? It's great. And I can kind of share what we're using, but what do
say
you
again?
I
get stuck on the song titles every time. I don't even hear your questions. But.
What kind of technology on the horizon or that you've seen you think is a differentiator?
For billing wise or for collection wise or for showing value or all the above?
All the above. Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with showing value because my key is, look, I want to show value because I want to be able to get people engaged and bought into what they're going to get from ABC physiotherapy so that they know their dollar, their time. By the way, pay is dollars, time, money, and energy, not just dollars. So that's for a whole nother discussion. But just because someone can afford it doesn't mean they should choose you if they don't understand the value. Back to, they don't understand that Dr. Jane Doe works with runners and helps people just like you. If you call and he says, I have knee pain with running, and you just schedule him for physical therapy, doesn't matter how much money they have. Why should they choose you? So time, money, and energy. So I like to talk about selling value. One is I'm talking to some people, and there are things out there currently too. The engagement with our clients, with our potential clients pre-arrival. So after you hang up that phone call, after they're scheduled, how are you engaging with the people? What are you sharing with them?
Super critical.
Yeah, to make sure that they understand that, yes, you did. So by the way, if you schedule someone out 3, 4, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks, they can have buyer's remorse. You realize that. So you have to continue to share some things to build trust, to show value, to decrease uncertainty, to decrease fear, to decrease doubt. So I'm looking at, I had a call actually right before this. I'm really excited because I'm looking for avenues to put all of these things in one place, branded for Lake Washington, but it becomes a one-stop shop. I don't like that term, but I think it fits, like an app or a portal or something like that, where people only have to go to one place, right, for everything with your business.
I like tab consolidation.
There you go. And that's exactly what it is. And so even to the point of through their journey with your business. So if you think about what I'm talking about, pre-arrival to arrival to course of care, this tool that I'm talking with someone about will manage the relationship, my favorite word, with your client, no matter where they are with their journey. Because at this part, you're building trust, you're building alliance, it's communication with the front desk. They arrive, now it's used by the provider to build more value, and it's used to communicate there. And then during their course of care, it's used as communication. It's used as a tool to share information, all kinds of stuff. So I believe that technology that keeps you in touch with doesn't bombard. I'm not talking about an outbound marketing tool. I'm talking about a communication tool. No,
one of the things, if I can interrupt you too, one of the things that
I've go for it.
Over the years, like we've got Mandy Majerus in our clinic, fantastic therapist. And I know I do this too. If I look on the schedule and say you're Jane Doe who has that runner coming in, and Jane emails them ahead of time personally and says, hey, I want you to bring these shorts, bring your last 3 pairs of shoes, bring your Strava information, etc. Like if you have interest in it, they're showing up early with their paperwork filled out and they're ready to go. Like,
dude,
huge.
I mean, I'm like, whoa, you want to talk about increasing likelihood of arrival? She just about capped it out. It's never 100%, but man, she just pushed it to the edge. Now, this engagement tool I'm talking about, I want to bake all that in, Ben. That's so they get it automatically, right? So again, Dr. Jane Doe treats runners. So we know if someone goes into the system as a runner, they get that call, they get that video from her talking about the running, by the way. So yeah, so this value add. So those are the value add tools, by the way, that tell people that yes, I should arrive, and yes, I should pay, whether it's $20 or $100. Now, again, they made a choice based on the value you sold them. And again, price is in the value equation. Mm-hmm. So $20 is just as much as $100. So that the point is, by the way, the in-network clinics with a bunch of people with $20 and $30 copays have the worst arrival rates of any clinics I work with. So, right, we still have to show value. So these tools to show value, I love. I'm seeing more and more software also, Ben. I don't know, you can share too. I love I shared about gathering up the information across pairs, like what you're collecting, what something that can update regularly. I'm seeing more and more revenue cycle management software out there.
That's hugely helpful.
Yeah. And man, I got to tell you, that goes back to your question you asked. It's giving you, I'm not going to say instant feedback, but it's giving you daily feedback as information's going in. So you can make as close to a real-time decision as you ever could, right? On billing, right? All of a sudden you see one of the PTs is billing less all of a sudden across, right? All the payers, again, it'll show up almost instantly. And again, you can just manage that. Hey, what's up? Right? Course correct, whatever. Right. I don't know, maybe you see some revenue per case is going up on some things, and you may find some, right? You may find some new trends a lot quicker with that. So I love that revenue cycle management software.
I think when you think of the PPV or the payment per visit to something to kind of think about, and this is where a lot of business owners get kind of lost in the weeds or don't look at this at all and just put their head down and treat more and just have massive spillage, is the AR. And so I don't have a relationship financially with these guys, but I will say that we've been using patient pay with a guy named Shazad and his team out of Dallas. And we cut our AR by about 47% in 2 months.
Now, tell me how that works.
Yeah, so basically it works with our EMR, which currently is Clinician, and it goes to the client register and basically figures out what's owed. It sends a text, which can be paid directly via link without creating another login or any of that kind of stuff. They can pay directly with their date of birth and their client ID. And they're about to add Apple Pay. So anything you can do to reduce the friction of payment.
You got it. Yeah. So yeah.
While you're watching Netflix, so it's one of those things where that payment, getting that in sooner.
Yeah. That dollar today is worth a lot more than that dollar tomorrow. So this is basically a payment system. Is that correct, Ben?
Yeah, it's different than just a pure online bill pay. So it's okay. Actually, it's taking care of the statements. It's doing emails. It's doing text.
Oh, so it's got statements and okay. All right.
You only get it. You only get them if you have a balance. So it's kind of one of those things where, you can, and they can also opt out of certain types of communication if they want. But I would say that the text is the number one at generating payment. So paper being the tertiary, of course. That's something just kind of to put on your, I'll put some show notes in there too, but those guys are really active. They're on all major EMRs, but we did the first migration with Clinician just in March, and we were the first people to do it. So it was, painful at first, and we're seeing a lot of benefits from that now too.
Cool.
Again, it's not changing anything the therapist does billing wise. It's just simply
right. Just collecting the money.
We did have a couple of comments here, and then I've got a couple of lightning round questions for Jerry. So this is a good one, and you can take this or I can take this, but how would you word telling new clients that we take payments towards their deductible?
Well, the key to that is, so I believe if you are taking insurance, by the way, you can be non-contracted or contracted, so in or out of network. And if you're giving people a super bill, you take insurance. So I'm like, check the damn benefits. You should check everybody's benefits. And then I want to have this conversation before they arrive. So I'm going to tell them during the cost call back that, so good news, Ben, your right, your Blue Cross plan, whatever. And by the way, this is in or out of network. I don't care. And if they're out of network, I'm going to say, by the way, Ben, so we contacted your insurance as I promised, and we are a non-contracted provider. And let me tell you what they're going to cover. And then I might tell them, you have a $5,000 deductible. And so the way we had it set up, everybody paid $150. So I would just say, so what that means is you will pay, right, for that first visit, you will pay $150. We will submit that to your insurance company, and they will submit, what did I say? I didn't say the full amount, because we all know the full fucking amount doesn't go to the deductible, because God forbid they do that. I say they will apply I forget that there was that term. They will apply the amount to your deductible.
Right. And we also use the terminology for that question to help answer it further too. Is that we played around with, this is a payment towards your visit. We transitioned to, this is a deposit towards your visit. So this does not mean the visit's going to cost $150. It could cost $135. It could cost $165. We're not sure until the charges kind of come down that Blinko board. But this is a deposit towards it. So it's not payment in full. Could be, might not be, but we will make sure to give you an expedited refund if you overpay.
Ben just gave me a little anxiety.
What's that?
Well, I don't like the uncertainty around cost.
Right.
So I'm not disagreeing with what you said. It's how you said it.
Yeah, maybe.
So, and again, I would say, look, and by the way, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to tell you guys, I had a long journey here and a lot of arguments and a lot of pissed off people. There was no better way. And as God is my witness, is God's honest truth, I could connect with more people on the collections end of the business when we threw the insurance industry under the bus together. And I'm not going to call it a fact, but I have experienced this over and over and over. And I get Ben on the phone, and we had a process in place. So by the time I got to the collection calls, it started with, Ben, this is Jerry. And unfortunately, like we mentioned, because I knew we did this on the cost call back when you called. And by the way, I would look this up back in March, is right. We mentioned that this information could be incorrect. And like we said, your insurance company fucked this up. And God is my witness, I would say fucked up sometime without even knowing the person, because I wanted them to understand that I'm here with you. And as I told you, they screwed it up. And so you have an opportunity upstream before anything bad happens. So we all hear what Ben said, and we know that's the God's honest truth. I would couch it, say the same thing, but Ben, because of your insurance, because of your insurance plan, because of your insurance carrier, because of the limited information they share with us, this is what we have for you. You may owe more, you may owe less. When you get your statement, I used to do this. So take the next jump. If and when you get a statement that EOB, and I used to laugh and make a joke out of it, explanation of benefits, and I know you don't understand it, and I barely do, but I want you to bring that in if you have any questions, and we will look at it at the time. So rather than say it might be wrong, it might be right, I'm telling you the reason, and I go hard that this is the insurance company's issue, not ours. We never, ever apologize for a billing problem in my company, ever, because it wasn't our fault. And the day you do that, and I've listened to these calls recently, Oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, you're dead. You're dead in the water. I'm listening to the call and the person just goes off for 20 minutes. I'm like, you took complete ownership of it. Yeah, we could do a whole call on just how to manage these. So if I do that, and then I say, so Ben, if this happens, here's what I want you to do. I really want you to open that first EOB and look at it. And if you don't understand it and it doesn't align with what we said, I want you to bring it in and we're going to look at it with you and we're going to work this thing through. And by the way, you know how many people brought in their EOBs? 5 out of, nobody does. The fact you told them this, I learned this also. The fact you told them it could be wrong and the EOB may be offline. When they get the EOB and it's offline, they're like, huh, what do they say? Just like you told me. But by the way, they're 3 visits in. They're seeing Dr. Jane Doe. They're getting better. They're happy.
Right.
They've got their exercises. They're moving towards their goal. And they go, just like you told me. Yeah, well, I'm really adamant on this. And it came from getting yelled at a lot and having to own a lot of this and then stepping back and going, wait a minute, this isn't us. I'll share my financial policy with everybody. That conversation is highlighted in 1 click bigger font on our financial policy right below the price. It says, if and when this information is wrong, it is your insurance company's fault, period. If it is, we are happy to help you. All right.
I like that.
All right. I'll come down off that box, dude.
That's a good box. No, I think that box is going to save a lot of headaches for people. I mean, the main goal too, I mean, you see more clinics than I do. I do far less consulting than you do, but I don't see any clinics that are doing anything nefarious. So I think if you can basically,
you are correct. And that's the thing. And everybody calls and yells at you. I've listened to the calls like you did something illegal. And then what do? You apologize. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Damn. It's that scene from Christmas Story when the bolts go flying. Oh, fudge. That's what I do when I listen to the calls. It's slow-mo. I'm like, don't say it. And again,
get in the car, Ralphie.
Yeah. And then we wonder why our front desk hates doing this stuff. It's because we make them own it. It's not our front desk fault either. Oh, so my front desk knew we do not apologize for billing mistakes.
Great stuff. I want to be cognizant of your time.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, of your time, not mine. I'm fireside. I'm fireside right now. You're on
that's
time.
Awesome.
You're ready for happy hour.
Yeah, dude. Don't think I'm not going to be out there.
Are you ready for some lightning round? These are
real quick. I want to throw in one thing. I want to tell everybody, this is the one takeaway I want you guys to take. There is a 5-step process that I mentioned earlier that I just want to outline it. And by the way, I will give it to you, Ben, to put. So everybody who listens to this, you will have take it and use it based on what you heard here and on the Arrival one. Take it and use it. And I promise you, your life will be easier. Step number 1, and hold on. This is so you can neutralize a price conversation that you're so freaked to have, that everybody's freaked to have, that nobody wants to have. Step number 1 is acknowledge what you hear. Hi, my name's Jerry. Want to get scheduled for physical therapy. I have low back pain. Acknowledge all 3 of those. Step number 2 is find the problem to be solved, right? So Ben, you have knee pain. Do you mind if I ask you some questions about what is giving you trouble with? No. So, right. What are you having difficulty with? What led you to call us today? Well, I'm a runner. Okay.
Great question.
Are you able to run? So problem to be solved. These are in order on purpose. And think about the Jane Doe conversation because this fits perfectly. Number 3 is you must get expectations. They align in the research. Nobody asks up front. I at least got to find out, have you had help with this before, Ben? Have you had any treatments? Have you had any services before for this? No. Have you ever had any physical therapy? And it's not just about physical therapy. It's about treatments and services because expectations align with outcomes. And I can manage and set those early on. I break that up into A and B. You want current expectations. And by the way, I found this out over time. If you're actually doing this on a call, it sounds a little awkward because after I ask him what his desired outcome is, what his goals are, and then I say, what are your expectations with us? They always repeat back the same thing, but just bear with me on this. I want to know what it is right? Well, I'm expecting to see an expert to find out why I'm having this knee pain, and I'd like some exercises for home. And I really want to get back, like I mentioned, to running that marathon in December. By the way, we can't lose because guess what? I'm going to pitch them on. So we have acknowledgement, problem to be solved, expectations. Then we have sell the expert. That's where I tell him Dr. Jane Doe has helped people just like him. Then I make sure he knows what he's going to get for his time, money, and energy. I sell the eval, deep dive. You'll find out why you have the need pay and you'll get a plan of care. And then I ask him, how would you like to pay? That's it. All right, cool. And I'll put that, I'll give you the document. And it's a 1-pager with all those with a little explanation below it.
And one last thing, just that kind of jogged my memory too, as far as the technology that you already have within your clinic, is that your website should have a duration stay per page. And I would say that your duration stay per page for your clinicians, hopefully they have their own bios, is the longer people stay on that clinician's page, the chances of their cancellation rate being very low is very good.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. There's a great metric.
So if you can create content that lets them explain what they do on a YouTube that you can embed. I know it takes time and energy for folks,
but the payoff, are you kidding me, dude? Huge, downstream?
Huge,
yeah, huge.
Downstream.
People want an expert. It's in the research. So when they go to the website and they see Dr. Jane Doe treats knees, and then they click on a video and she speaks like an expert.
Right. And I can speak.
By the way, the pay conversation becomes way easier.
Right. Like I think a lot of it is just looking at other businesses outside our own.
Oh,
we were just getting, not to get us completely off topic, but we were looking at solar.
This is right on topic.
Yeah. So we're purchasing solar. So a big investment. I reached out to them via their website, late at night, a local company, and they got back to me with an automated response, which I expected within about 2 minutes. I got a follow-up email with an actual person the next morning, and with a willingness to have a phone call if I wanted one. But he also sent me a PDF of what our projected cost would be. Then he texted me and said, hey, if you have any questions on the information, let me know. Otherwise, I'm happy to hop on a call. He also sent me a couple of links of things I could read that had videos of him in it. So I already felt like I knew Sam before I even talked to him. And then, he came out and did a drone flyover. So it's one of those things that's, just think about what you just heard. This is the pre-arrival process. So having a tool, like I was talking about, an engagement tool where all these things can happen before people even arrive and get right. Because really it's not over when you hang up the phone. It's over when they arrive. Right. And I was going to get 4 bids and I ended up getting 2 because these guys,
right, because of that experience. Right.
My second
people
outreach.
Stop calling.
Yeah.
Hey, you're set up with Dr. Jane Doe in and everything. He hangs up the phone. He goes, wow, glad I called them.
Check that off.
I don't need to call anywhere else. That's one of my objectives of the first phone call. Ben hangs up and says, I don't have to call anywhere else.
Well, and you may have this too from the psychological standpoint, but if you think that Jane Doe is more of an expert than she is, or even if you think she is the ultimate expert, I think your chances of getting better are greater because you think
that's research proven, my friend.
Yeah. So anyway, so let's move over to the lightning round here, which we have not done before, but these are short answer. And then
I love these. I love these.
After this, I sent something for Jerry to open for everyone can kind of see this. It should be kind of funny. H Street or Delancey Street?
Oh, Delancey Street, 100%.
Okay. Matt Williams or Mike Schmidt?
Ooh, dude, there's no way. Matt Williams. He was in my clinic once.
Oh man, he's like a great player. Joe Purdy or Jalen Hurts?
That hurts. I'm not even going to answer that. Go on.
Purdy
was freaking undefeated, people. Mr. Irrelevant.
More fun to watch, Randall Cunningham or Steve Young?
Oh God, that's a tough one. Now that I'll give you that one. Boy, both those guys, huh? Yeah. Again, he keeps giving me San Francisco. I got to go. There are epic videos that show up on Twitter, those Steve Young runs like against Minnesota and stuff. But for all those, Randall Cunningham looked like a gazelle running, just running through the wild and no one could touch him, man. Those guys were both. Yeah. I think they were the premier ones, right? That kind of set that pace for those running quarterbacks.
What about Ricky Waters versus Ricky Waters?
Oh, that's right, dude. There you go. God.
Which half of the career do you want?
Yeah, one half mattered, dude.
No,
that Seattle, is awesome.
No Seattle Ricky Waters.
That is good.
Okay, Iverson or Curry?
Oh, Curry, 100%. I'll tell you what. I happened to glance at that when you sent it. That is the only one. And what I thought was, if we're on some playground out here in Philly and Curry and Iverson are there, I'm taking Iverson first every single time.
Right. I guess this a follow-up question: Curry or LeBron?
No, yeah. Well, time will tell. I'm gonna let time tell on that one.
Yeah.
But I love the Iverson versus Curry, because if we have a structured game and we're playing on a court, Curry 100% of the time. But if we're gonna match it, just play half court or freaking play outside, Iverson 130% of the time, right?
I think the Curry thing is kind of interesting versus LeBron on the impact, because I see more kids under 6 foot that can now play or shoot.
Oh, I like the impact. I like that.
But LeBron is obviously ahead quicker.
I'm losing people with my answers. I notice people dropping off with my answers, man.
Why don't you go ahead and open that up and let's take a look in there.
Yeah, I want to see this.
I think you'll like this.
So Ben sends me a box like 2 months ago and says you can't open it till the webinar. I'm like, okay. Now
you would hate to be my child at Christmas.
Yeah, dude, exactly. Now, hold on. Oh my gosh. Now I've seen the ads for this stuff. So it's not caffeinated, right? It's mud. No, is it called mud water?
This is just the box. That's just a box.
Oh my freaking God, dude. I thought it was the box. Oh my God. I thought it was that. Oh my God. That is too much, dude.
Those started following me around on the internet. And I'm like, I'm getting these for Jerry.
Now, hold on. I got to show him. Let me show him my t-shirt. I thought it was the mud water you got me, dude.
No, mud water is great too.
This is great, dude. This is great. Lake Washington PT.
Awesome. Hey, well, I can't thank you enough for connecting again. And we'll
I got a place for the cards, right? You can't see it. I got a little table over here with my booze on it. See it?
I like being next.
The card goes right there. Boom.
Boom. If you need anything for Jerry, you can reach him on LinkedIn. You can check out his YouTube channel. You can find you on Facebook, Instagram.
I won't share these, by the way.
Yes, yeah. And I don't even know.
BC Boys, by the way. If you guys go look up the sabotage video, this is the BC Boys dressed up like cops in the sabotage video. The best video ever made.
I don't even know if you should open those. I think they might have value if you don't open them. It's like Star Wars figures.
There's that classic scene.
Oh,
I know. I had those Star Wars figures. You had them too growing up, right? Because you referenced them.
Awesome. Hey,
I thought I was getting mud water, dude.
Yeah, sorry to disappoint you. I'll talk to my people at Mudwater and get.
Yeah, dude. Tell them to send me some. I was like, oh, good. I get to try this stuff.
All right.
Now this is good. So LinkedIn, Instagram, anywhere. And if you message me and say, hey, I listened to the webinar with you and Ben, I respond.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for the time. Have fun at happy hour. Thanks, everybody.
Always. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. All right.
Are we still recording? You're still recording.
I think I'm going to stop the record.
Someone gets to edit.
Let's see.